All right, so in this video, I'll go over how to do a glowing inside your stuff. So this is a different scene, obviously, than one we've been working on, but the process is exactly the same. So you go through and you set up your render just like you would regular. This is your beauty pass. This is what you want it to look like, you know, as far as the coloring goes. The only thing that's missing from here, obviously, is the glowing. I want these blue parts, let's say, to glow. So I go through, I set up my stuff here the same way. Sarcona underscore beauty product, whatever it's called. Name.number.extension. Say it's 120 frames or 90 frames, whatever it ends up being. Pick the camera. There's my resolution. Here's my other render settings. Okay, so everything like that is fine. Okay. Oh, I may have also, you know, my depth in here, and then I may also have ambient occlusion. Come on. Just add that in real quick. Oh, there it is, shader. Ambient occlusion. Doing a little test frame. Check out my ambient occlusion. That looks pretty gray. I want this to be a little bit more black and white. Pull that far clip down, that definitely helps. Fall off can also help, so if I pull that back up, I can adjust it using fall off. I think that's a bit better. Like that, yep, okay. Maybe a little bit more. There you go. Maybe a little bit more on the legs there than I wanted, so I took that up. Maybe I'll increase the samples to 6 just to make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay, so then I would go through my rendering. I would say render sequence. I would choose the camera I'm rendering through and say render and close. Okay, for this, the process is exactly the same whether it's a still or a video. Oops, I forgot one more thing. Under my default Arnold driver, I want to say merge AOVs. There we go. All right, so that puts all of them together. So now I would, if you do a render sequence, it automatically outputs all your files. Because I'm just going to use a still for this, I'm just going to go to File, Save Multi-Layer. And I'll throw this into this folder, and I will call this Robot Body. Okay. And now to get the beauty, or to get the glowing parts, I need to isolate these blues. So I'm going to save my scene as. This is the beginner way to do this. It can get more complex glow parts. So I'm going to get rid of my light, get rid of my background here. And I'm going to grab everything in my scene and just assign a favorite material surface shader, and this will be black. So if I go to Arnold now and render, we get that, which is exactly what we should get, okay, because it's basically rendering out solid black. Then anything that had the blue on it, there, right there. Those are all the parts that have blue. I'm going to assign another surface shader. And this one can just be white. I'll make it red. Okay, so now I go to render, and now I get this. And now what's cool about this is as my camera spins around, it's automatically creating masks based on what's visible and what's not. So one of my legs is not updating. definitely this leg here decided not to assign those, so I'll just assign that real quick. But the black on top is just occluding or hiding all the other stuff. There we go. So now we have all the red there. Cool. Now I don't need, it's still rendering out the AOVs, so I can just turn these off. I don't need those. And then what I would do is go through my render sequence and render this out again. Now, just for fun, let's pretend that I wanted to adjust other stuff. Like I may want to adjust maybe the colors on some of these things. Okay, so I'm just going to grab some of the other metal. Let's just say I grab the hinges. And the spine. All right, so I'm just going back to my original camera. There we go. And I'm going to assign a new surface shader, and this one will be right blue. All right, so now I'm going to render this. And there we go. So I have the blue. Oops, one of my gears did not select. There we go. And I have the red. And then again, if you had other stuff, like I'll just grab the chest plate, just so we have one other thing. And I'll give this a bright green. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is just save this as a multi-layer EXR. Also, robot glow there. Now obviously with yours, because it's an animation, you would go to render sequence again. Make sure that you put it, pick the right camera. If I just did it like this, whatever my render settings are set to, it would overwrite that name. So make sure you go back here and change that to glow. Okay. Then you can do your render sequence and then you're good. So now I'm going to jump into Nuke and I'm just going to hit R to read my file in. And go to my folder, there's images. Robot body, robot glow, so 2 files. Okay, now I can compare just hitting 1 back and forth, or hitting 1 on this one, 2 on that one. I can go back and forth and you can see that they are perfectly lined up with what they need to be. So if something were to have happened where I moved the camera, it shifted, whatever, I need to go back and redo it. You'll find that this glow one will go pretty quick. The rendering for that doesn't take typically too long because it's basically just like solid coloring. So this is how we set this up. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to do a shuffle. And I'm going to pull out the ambient occlusion. And then I'm just going to merge that back into this and do a multiply. So I just hit M for multiply. Remember, you can hit tab and type in the one you want that you want to find. Whenever we do a merge, remember that the A is going to be on top. So I want that shuffle on top. And then I want the background body part to be the multiply. Then I'm going to go to defocus. Oops. Sorry, Z defocus. And then using my direct here, making sure this is set to depth or Z. There we go. Now I can set that up. And then I can tweak, obviously, my settings. Okay. All right, so now where does the glow come in? Oh, wait. So we could do the glow right here. And what would happen is the glow would look kind of weird because of how it's basically it would glow and then it would be like blurred out. So what we need to do is we need to copy this information into here, but then do the glow after the Z to focus, okay? So I'm going to use a K for copy node, so I just click that and hit K. A is connected to this, B will be connected to here. Just drop it in. And I'm going to say that I want my red channel to be saved as a new channel. And what this will do is it'll say, whatever I call this, so this will be glow part or glow.parts. And then it says you want to create a new one called glow. I say yes. And then the green, which is like the spine, I'll make that a new one. And I'll call this hinges.parts. Say yes. And then for my blue, oops, the green was the chest plate, chest.parts. And then the blue was the hinges, so I would just go to hinges because it's already listed there, okay? So now what this is going to do is, if I went back to the original one, I hit 1 so I can see it. Inside here I can look at the ambient occlusion, I can look at the depth, I can see those things update. Set that back to RGBA. If I go to this copy now, I also have inside here chest, glow, and hinges. Okay, now let's do the Z to focus. So I hit 1 on that. If I look at my chest now, you'll see that it's a bit softer in this area right here because it's actually defocusing that as well. If I go to my glow area, same thing, it's a little bit softer, and same thing with hinges, those are a little bit softer. So we copied in these glow parts right before the defocus. It gets defocused, so everything's at the same level. And then now at the very end of this, now I could add a glow. And by default, it's going to glow everything, which is obviously not what we want to do. So we're going to go to the width channel, and this is where we choose what is going to glow. So I'm going to go to glow parts. And if I crank up the brightness, you can see how that is glowing just in those areas. I could also take the tint of the glow. If I click on the color here, I can make this maybe a bluer color. There we go. I can take the size of this down or up. Okay, I like it just like that. I could also play with the tolerance. In this case, it's only going to do a little bit of stuff. That's cool. But you can definitely see that adds a nice little touch to everything that's in there. So if I want to see what it looks like with and without the glow, I can just click on the glow and hit D. And that's just a toggle for turning the glow on and off. So maybe this is a little bit too much. Let's take the size of this up a bit more. There we go. It was a little bit too hard. All right, so now what can we do? Let's go here. So now, let's say that I want to adjust the color of this chest plate. So if I added a grade, which is a color adjustment thing after this, and then I started adjusting, let's say, the color, you'll see that it adjusts everything. So if I go to mask, now I can choose chest. And now this will only affect the chest. Now what we're going to see here is it is just affecting the chest, but because my images, they must not have been perfectly lined up. Let's check that again. Yeah, you can see there's a definite, just slight difference in where these things are positioned. So that's definitely off a little bit. We didn't notice it too much with the glow because it's a glow, but I am definitely noticing it here. So maybe I'll just take this and hit T for transform, and maybe just scoot it up like 3, 6. Yep, and then maybe I'll make it just a tiny bigger. Now you don't want to do this for yours. You'd actually want to make sure the camera's lined up right. -1. All right, we'll just call that good. Okay, just for this demo. Now, what other thing we might happen to us is as we're adjusting this, we're also adjusting the color of the glow because the glow exists in this area. So it's not just isolating the chest plate, it's actually doing the entire thing. And this is where you place stuff in this hierarchy matters because of how it's set up. So this thing here needs to be before the glow. So if I hit Control X to cut it out of there, click on the Z to focus, and Control V, it'll paste it inside that area. So now, we can adjust the coloring of that chest plate and still have the glow being on top of it. Cool. Now, when you're done with this and you have an animation inside Nuke you want to get out, let me just read in this other animation so you can see it. So here's another animation. Oops, I turned something off. Let me just click that, click this, there we go. Cool. All right. So when you read in a file that's a sequence, you'll see that Nuke names it up here with pound signs. So that's how we want to export it out. So we read a file in, you do all your stuff to it, and then you can write it out. And you just have to make sure that you put it in the correct folder. So this is cubes in this case. And I put a dot, pound, 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 and then a dot tiff, 1F. Okay. And that way, when I hit this render button, Nuke will know it's a sequence and it'll render out a sequence. Then I can just go in After Effects and put that sequence into a movie. Cool. So that's how you can add glow to your items.